What do we do with a drunken sailor? What do we do with a drunken sailor? What do we do with a drunken sailor? Early in the morning. Put him in the bed with the captain's daughter. Put him in a bed with the captain's daughter. Put him in a bed with the captain's daughter. Early in the morning. Oh, oh, and up she rises. Oh, oh, and up she rises. Oh, oh, and up she rises early in the morning. Shave his back with a rusty razor, shave up his back with a rusty razor, shave up his back with a rusty razor early in the morning. I beat you to it this time, Ignar. I beat you to it this time. Me and you need to do another collaborative stream, though. I know there for a while it was kind of hard for you to find moments to do it, so don't blame me there. What's up, Rose? I'm here. I'm queer. Get used to it. We're here. We're queer. Don't fuck with us. We'll fuck you up. We're here. We're queer. What do you do with a drunken femboy? What do you do with a drunken femboy? What do you do with a drunken femboy early in the morning? Dress him up in a Velma costume, dress him up in a Velma costume, dress him up in a Velma costume early in the morning. I've been streaming for a while, actually, on Streamlabs, testing things out. That's cool. I haven't checked out your streams in a while just because YouTube hasn't been recommending them to me for whatever reason, but I'll have to check you out. Because I normally do. I try to swing through there every so often, you know? Musharagam darmara dun 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 whack fall the daddy-o. Whack fall the daddy-o. There's whiskey in the jar. 'Twas early in the morning, just before I rose to travel. Up comes a band of footmen, and likewise Captain Farrell. I first produced my pistol, for she'd stolen away me rapier. But I couldn't shoot the water, so a prisoner I was taken. Mushering the mother, whack fall the daddy-o. Whack fall the daddy-o. There's whiskey in the jar. If I could find my... What's the line? If I could find my brother, he's the one that's in the army. If I could find his station, is it Cork or in Killarney? And if he'll go with me, we'll go roaming through Kilkenny, and I'm sure he'll treat me better than me own me sporting Jenny. Mushering da 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 da. Do you still play guitar? Well, hell yeah. It's not like eventually you just wake up one day and you can't play anymore. I don't play as often as I used to, maybe when I lived on it, but yeah. Yeah, I still play every so often. That deep voice is so good, sir. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever, like, met, like, an actual woman in your life at any point in your life. I know that, like, the male loneliness epidemic has made it a pretty rare thing for cis men to meet women. But the more women you meet, the more you'll realize that there are actually plenty of women with deep voices, that I am not that unique an animal. I'm drinking coffee and it's like 12 in the morning. Well, I wasn't even talking to you, Worms, but since you've chosen to take it so personally, what umbrage do you personally take with the usage of the term cis to describe people who aren't trans? You realize that it's a Latin prefix that's been in use for hundreds and hundreds of years in English to mean the same, or as once produced, or as born. Yeah, caffeine can have like the opposite effect of like it makes some people sleepy, it makes some people wired no matter what, and then there are some people like me. I get like a wake up kind of effect from coffee in the mornings, but then if I drink it like late at night, I don't seem to notice that same effect. It's almost like it does make me sleepy, as long as I drink it late enough at night. Hey, how's your knee? I remember you saying it wasn't doing too well. It's actually doing a lot better. I was able to rest it. Thank God I've got a family that is, like, just thank God for my village, because, you know, like, there for, like, a couple of days, I literally could not walk around to be able to take care of me and my partner's baby, but, you know, thanks to me having my family around and everything, it didn't end up being that big a deal. I was able to rest it, able to stay off of it for a couple of days, and now it's doing fine. I mean, I still don't have perfect mobility in it, and my ankle still kind of hurts, but I can tell it's going away now, and that's what matters, ultimately. Bro, that's not the kid fucker flag, and whatever bigoted piece of shit told you that, I think that there's a good argument that they should be arrested for misinformation if misinformation is ever made a fucking actual offense, which it probably should be at a certain point. But that's another conversation to have. The fact of it is that queer people are way more likely to be assaulted as children than to ever assault a child. Sorry, I know that's a statistic you guys hate, but it's just the truth of the matter. Trans people, queer people in general really, are way more likely to be the victims of assault, both as children and as adults, frankly, than we are to be the perpetrators of it. The vast majority of pedophiles are cisgender men. The vast majority of sexual assaults in general are committed by cisgender men. These statistics are not in question. I don't think that means that all cis men are tainted in some way. Don't take my meaning wrong. What I'm saying is that if there's any sort of if there's any sort of overwhelming statistical finger to be pointed, it's not pointed at the trans community. I can assure you of that. It cannot logically be pointed at us. By the way, there's 246 people in here. If half of you guys hit that like button instantly, we would have like 123 likes, like that. 1, 2, 3, that'd be cool. So hit that like button instantly, all of you. Do it right now. Double tap your screen or hit it over here on the little rail. And if you want to make absolutely sure that your message gets read, consider sending a super chat. I read every single one, and it's a great way to make sure that you are part of the conversation and a great way to financially support the channel and tell me you like what we're doing over here. We don't like you? That's too bad. You really should. You're a dude, and you're a nobody. Whatever. Think whatever you want to think about me. I will wipe my tears with my ad revenue. Lots of trolls tonight. Other trolls tonight. We feed on the trolls over here. The trolls provide us a lovely amount of content. The trolls are what we argue with, you know. If there's any MAGAs that want to defend the fact that they voted for the dude who is now running around defending his association with known pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, we can argue about that. If there's any Democrats in here that want to defend their choice to support Kamala Harris despite her being an electable candidate, we can discuss that. If there's any liberal simps, kind of like Democratic, what's the word I'm looking for? God damn it! I hate when this happens. If there's any of these hardcore party loyalists amongst us, we can talk about why it's such a disappointment that Kamala isn't running for the gubernatorial race, in you guys' opinion, and why I think it's an entirely predictable action. We can talk about anything we want to here. That's the beauty of this content, is that we can have any kind of conversation that we want, but it requires input from you guys. Thank you, Piper Noble, for the $1. I appreciate that a lot. If you want to send a super chat of your own, consider hitting the little button down there. The more you send, the more you can say, and I do read every single one. Now remember, we're not banning everybody, but I don't see any bans so far that don't need to happen, so I'm not getting on to my mods. Oh, man. Don't smoke meth, kids? Man, you've never met a tweaker in your entire life. Tell me you've never met a tweaker without telling me you've never met a tweaker. Tweakers ain't fat, bro. Meth makes you do things that makes you lose weight. Meth makes it harder for you to eat. Meth harder for you to stay still. So people who like religiously use meth end up being rail thin. I'm way too fat to be a tweaker. Sorry. Let's go Trump MAGA. I would way rather hear you fucking defend some of the bullshit that he's doing right now rather than just say you're for Trump. I don't need to hear you tell me that you're for Trump. I can look at the statistics and tell that despite Trump running around defending his association with Jeffrey Epstein, despite the fact that he has gone back on his campaign promise to release these files, despite all that shit, there's still a good 37% of Americans who are like, yeah, Trump! It's just, you know, like a given that at least a third of the people in my chat are going to be pro-Trump. The real question is how? That's the real question, you see. Touch grass? I touch way too much grass, honestly. I touch too much grass. I'm covered in mosquito bites right now because I touched too much grass. You talk too much? You're literally watching a fucking stream. What else is supposed to happen in a live stream on the internet but talking? Come on now. Make sure you guys hit that like button, by the way. It really does help. Every single time you help that like button, or every single time you hit that like button, it helps push this stream out to even more people, which increases the quality of your viewing pleasure by an order of magnitude, by increasing the amount of people engaging in the chat. Hopefully, increasing the amount of people engaging in good faith as well. But we'll see. We'll see how it works out. We'll see how it turns out. And consider sending a super chat if you want to make sure your message gets read. That is the best way you can make sure that you're a part of the conversation. And it's just a great way to financially support the channel and help support the message that we're kind of doing here. You know, the goal of this channel, which is to have difficult conversations with people that disagree, you know. Attention wares are annoying. I agree. Attention wares are annoying. An attention ware, by the way, is like one of those places that just exists to get you to pull over and look at it and maybe give somebody in the vicinity some money, you know? So attention wares are pretty annoying. Like you're just driving down the road on a road trip, you're having a good time, maybe you're even in the middle of a good song, but then you see it, the world's largest ball of twine, and you're like, God damn it, that attention ware. Fuck. Man, God, please don't let my kids see it. Don't let them, no. And then you hear it, the dread phrase, Mommy, I want to stop at the world's largest ball of twine. Of course you do, honey. All right. Damn attention wares. Do you support Jill Stein? It would be easier for me to support Jill Stein if her candidacy had any success at this point. I think that the Green Party is kind of poisoned in a lot of people's minds the same way the Democrats and the Republicans are. And so I have a hard time saying, like, yeah, hardcore Jill Stein simp over here, you know? But I generally tend to agree with the things I hear Jill Stein saying. I just don't think that she's got much of a chance of being the third-party candidate that is able to bridge the gap between, you know, mostly apolitical people who vote Democrat and mostly apolitical people who vote Republican, and the massive group of people who are eligible to vote but don't, a lot of whom also claim some sort of lack of politicalness or whatever on the basis of their refusing to ally with the two parties. The people who are going to bridge the gap between the three biggest groups of voters in this country, or the two biggest groups of voters and the biggest group of non-voters, that person is not going to be Jill Stein. Got a $5 super chat. Let me check that out. Let me see here. My wife was hit by a car this Monday when she was biking to work. Luckily, she only got a broken tibia, but still a fucked situation overall. That's horrible, Black Clark. I'm so sorry to hear that, dude. That is fucking lame. I wish a lot of luck to your family, and I hope that their recovery is super quickly. That fucking blows, dude. And it's just another example of car-dependent infrastructure hurting people's lives, like actively killing people, actively making people's lives harder. It's fucked. It's really fucked. Did you little bitches report brigade me again? Have you little bitches report brigaded me again? Because there's no way we should be sitting at 65 viewers at 15 minutes. Were you as a is maybe because of trauma? No. I mean, well, I went through childhood sexual abuse, but I don't think that it has anything to do with the fact that I'm trans. I just think way more kids are like touched and diddled in this country than America is altogether too comfortable with, you know? So we don't like the fact that our statistics are worse than they actually seem to be. But we kind of all know, it's kind of like an open secret, that the vast majority of times when a kid gets touched, it's not reported. And the amount of times that it is reported tells us that it's already happening at a pretty fucking unprecedented rate. That sort of thing is one of the fucking crimes that has gone up. But you know what the fucking sad thing about it is? We're also, and I know this wasn't the topic of your question, but it made me think about it, right? The saddest part about all of this rhetoric surrounding trans people and sexual assault and all this, the saddest thing about it all is that, what was the point I was going to make? Fuck, I don't remember now. God damn it. I hate it when that happens. Part of me feels like I was just going to make the point about how trans people are way more likely to be victims of sexual assault than we are to be perpetrators of it. But I feel like I make that point too often. I feel like I probably had another point in mind, but now I can't remember what it was. Oh well, stoner problem. Sure enough, grow or sow some balls and get back to the workforce. Go on, get. Yeah, no, you would not want me to get back to the workforce because there would be no one to raise my child. So, yeah, how about you do whatever you want with your life and I'll continue doing whatever the fuck I please with mine. The Hawk Tua got me. Why is it okay for a cis girl to get like viral, literally doing something way more disgusting than me, like dealing with a glob of fucking mucus in my throat from the fact that I smoke, right? Yeah, that's gross. I'm not denying it. But Hawk Tua girl did something way grosser than that in that same vein. Did it in public in broad daylight to an audience of millions, and she's like loved. She's loved for it. How do you explain that with any framework other than transphobia? And I'm not even bitching. Like, whatever. People are going to think I'm gross. I can't help that. But the hypocrisy bothers me. The hypocrisy fucks with me a little bit because it just reminds me that there is an intrinsically different standard applied to trans women than there are to cis women. And it's funny because when I really think about what that difference hinges upon, among both TERFs and traditionalist conservatives, the difference hinges upon the fact that one of us has a vagina and the other does not. One of us can breed and the other of us cannot, or at least we can't hold the child in ourselves and grow it within ourselves. Ooh, we got a super chat from a member. Thank you so much for being a member, and thank you so much for the $5. I appreciate that a lot. Lots of desperate dudes in denial here, improving her engagement. Good job, dummies. Yeah, no. Don't tell them that too hard, man. Don't tell them that too hard, because they'll get all fucking hot and bothered about themselves. They won't know how to feel about themselves if you let them know that they are, in fact, helping a trans lady get even more popular and even larger voice, you know? Don't let them know that. And they hate it. I'm trying to figure out a place to like get in on the chat, but I haven't found a chat that I can directly respond to yet. So I can't believe YouTube decided to hide the dislike button behind these those three dots. I know, terrible, isn't it? But you know what's great about that? You can dislike, like, or do both. I don't give a shit. All of it's engagement. YouTube doesn't care either, for the record. You telling YouTube that you personally don't like this video, it might influence your algorithm, but it's not influencing the broader algorithm in any other way other than to say, hey, this content's getting views and reactions. Come on over here. That's all it says. That's all it does to the actual overall algorithm. Honestly, at this point in 2025, I don't give a shit what you do with your personal life. I started getting pissed off when you started coming after the kids. Not you per se, but your movement. How did we start coming after the kids, Gordon? In what way did we start coming after the kids? Because I hear this accusation all the time, and usually what it amounts to is very thin gruel. Very thin gruel. Situation, individual. Situation, individual. Situation, individual. Situation, individual. Situation, individuals. Situation, individuals. The coming after the kids started because of the San Francisco choir. This must be a news story of which I have not been abridged. Let me see here. Ooh, I like this. I like this comment. I don't know why it didn't get shown. It's weird. MAGA people expect trans women to be extra ladylike. They love their women to be tomboys, but they go right for the throat if a trans woman is the least bit tomboyish. Fuck them. That is a really fucking good point, and it's something I don't bring up nearly enough. There is a completely different set of standards applied to trans women than is applied to cis women, and the only fucking distinction that I can make between us, the only distinction that they make between us, is the fact that trans women don't have a vagina and are therefore incapable of giving birth or nurturing a child in the way that a cis woman can, like internally, right? Which means that the distinction they're drawing is an inherently sexist one. It's an inherently misogynistic one. And it's sad because it really just reinforces the common traditionalist conservative idea of women being broodmares for the state and their husbands and their family and having really no other function in society. And there are a whole lot of women that claim to be radical feminists who go around decrying the trans movement and trying to talk shit on the trans movement, when in fact the arguments that they're using, the premise of the fucking anti-trans movement, is this idea that people are defined not by who they are, not by what they do, not by what they like, how they smell, what they dress as, anything like that. No, it's all down to their bodies. And man, you could do some real fucking intersectional commentaries on just that angle alone. I mean, like, traditionalist conservative movements in America love to reduce things to just your body alone. Why were black people able to be kept as slaves for so long in the South despite the abolition movement rising in other places? The dehumanization of the black people, the dehumanization of African people in the United States, and black people over the last 200 years, that dehumanization is all based on the idea that there is something that is indicated by that little bit of difference in skin color other than the obvious phenotypical difference. It's all based on this false premise that you can tell something about somebody just by looking at the parts they have or the way their body is or something like that. Now I'm hearing that I have a Chad jaw. I love that. I love that. The narrative about my appearance has changed so profoundly through my life. Now that I'm out as a woman, now that I'm out as trans, now that everybody knows, suddenly I'm like the reeking, strong Greek figure of masculinity, you know? But my whole life before that, I was the most effeminate dude anybody had ever met. I love that. That is got to be one of the most clear signs that I'm doing something right. The fact that there are people consistently pissed off about it that want to fucking harsh my gig and yuck my yum, all because they have some kind of fucking hang up. Yeah, it's called conservative values. This country had them when we were prosperous housing with affordable. Are you fucking serious? People had aspirations and goals and families, and youth had morals. Yeah, whatever era you're looking back on with all these rose-colored glasses, Gordon, was probably not built on as much conservatism as you fucking think it was. What era are you thinking of, Gordon? The 50s? Back when the capital gains tax rate was like up in the 90s or something like that? Back when the corporate tax rate was incredibly high here in America? Are you talking about the 50s, back when there was an actual social safety net that had just been built and that was expanding here in America? Are you talking about that era? Are you talking about the 50s when the highways were opening up and massive amounts of cheap land and brand new things called suburbs was opening up? Are you talking about the post-war landscape where Americans had way more money because American manufacturing had been brought online and back to modernity by the war? Talking about that era? Do you have any idea what party Franklin Delano Roosevelt belonged to? Because Franklin Delano Roosevelt is the guy who in his administration is the people who came up with all of the policies that made the 50s, 60s, and 70s so great to live in. FDR and his administration are responsible for making America a more livable, equitable, happy, joyful, and productive place for the next 30 years after his administration. Do you have any idea what party he was allied with? Do you have any idea what sort of labels his politics would be given these days? Any ideas what kind of labels his specific policies would be given these days? I can give you a few of them. Socialist is a label that would be used for many of FDR's hardcore, most central policies. If FDR tried to run today, he'd be decried by the Republicans as a socialist. The man led us through possibly one of the darkest times in American history, and then led us out of a depression and kept us out of a depression. Restored America to economic brilliance and security before any other country on the planet that was advanced as we were was even back online. Before Europe was even done cleaning up the rubble from World War II, American factories were already back online, and we were already working on new infrastructure projects here in the United States. You know what that was funded by? High corporate tax rates, high capital gains rates, low loopholes, very few of them, and a massive amount of economic activity here in the United States, most of which was afforded by New Deal policies that gave people more money, that insured people against things like the theft of their identity, and that gave people a reliable pension plan that they could look forward to, even if their company wasn't offering them one that was very good. It gave them more access to the ability to fight for their rights in a union and increase the strength of that as a movement. If minimum wage workers were getting the equivalent of the minimum wage in 1955, they'd be getting $26.29 an hour. I know, and I'm not even a big proponent of minimum wage, by the way. I think that every industry and every commercial space should have a union, and I think that those unions should organize and advocate for proper wages for the people under their protection. But in a country where we don't have that, I do think a minimum wage is a good stopgap measure. And I think it's amazing if you look at the difference between what the federal minimum wage is right now versus the equivalent of what the federal minimum wage was in 1955. So you look up whatever the federal minimum wage was in 1955. I don't know what it was off the top of my head. Somebody in chat said just now that the equivalent amount of money would be $26 an hour. Now, I don't know if that's 100% true. I haven't fact-checked it myself, but I've heard numbers like that before, and I'm apt to believe it. And you think about how few fucking jobs even offer that, at least entry-level jobs. The kind of jobs that used to pay minimum wage now pay so fucking much less. They pay so fucking much less as a representative proportion of the profits being made. So yeah, technically they're paying more than they used to in the 50s, but practically they're paying less because cost of living has gone up. Every part of cost of living has gone up, and the profits of these companies have gone massively up. But the pay has only gone up in little trickles and little beeps and boops. And so the purchasing power of a dollar has gone way down, while people kept making largely the same amount of dollars. Or maybe they'd make, a few extra cents year to year. It's wage stagnation. Been going on for a long time now. Yeah, I mean, this is trivial stuff, bro. All those things you're talking about, as if they're bad things, actually make my heart flutter. No, I'm talking about them as if you should recognize them as bad things. I don't think they are bad things. I think we were doing things right economically back then. But you cannot call yourself a conservative if you're all about taxing the fuck. Holy shit. Yeah, I'm okay. I just, I don't know what happened. I breathed in, and I guess a little water or something got pulled back too. I don't know. Productivity has gone up so much, and until 1980, wages rose with productivity. Now only CEOs and upper executives reap from increased productivity. 100%. Yeah, I mean, especially when you can consider automation. Just think about how much productivity has been able to increase in leaps and bounds these days. And then think about how few extra jobs have come from that automation and how little people are paid that are still employed by those companies. I'm not talking political here when I say conservatism. I'm talking about as a moral true north in the average everyday American. Yeah, see, this is what I take issue with, Gordon. You think that your beliefs reflect the beliefs of the average everyday American, but they just don't. The average everyday American supports the right of trans people to live as they want to live, at the very least for adults, a slim majority. A slim majority of Americans have supported trans people's rights to exist and to present as whatever gender we feel most comfortable as for 10 years now. It's gone up, it's gone down, but it's been about 50% of people for about 10 years, give or take. When it comes to abortion rights, most Americans are in favor of a woman's right to choose, right? Someone's ability to get an abortion if they need one, which is like one of these social issues that is often considered deeply tied in with morality. He just took too big of a rip. All of you that are worried, I can tell you ain't smokers. Well, I'm not a he, but yeah, I mean, like, I took a big rip, but at the same time, I also, like, on the recovery breath, I think I, like, inhaled too hard and kind of, like, caught, like, a little droplet of something, you know? Hell, I could have swallowed a bug. All I know is that I let that hit out, I took the recovery breath, and something scratched my throat when I did. Hey, when there's a war, you can't fight it from home. You got to be on the battlefield. That's why I'm here. Do what? I'm not sure I understand what you're trying to say there. Morals lead to politics. Politics is just the struggle for distribution of power. Yeah, effectively, yeah. It's the way by which we decide the policies that will guide our country and decide our lives. It's been real, it's been fun. I harbor no hate for you, but your lifestyle and way of life is detrimental to a cohesive society. Well, you've done such a good job of explaining why, Gordon. You've literally been given so many chances now to, like, make the argument as to why it's wrong, and so far you've appealed to some vague, nebulous time in the past. You've appealed to the silent majority. You've appealed to the fallacy of authority through majority, right? But you haven't actually addressed the argument. You haven't actually made your point. You haven't explained why you think trans people are detrimental to society, and if it's not the fact that I'm trans and whatever it is you take issue with me about, you haven't explained why that's detrimental, and I don't expect that you will, honestly. Why do you use obscenities and disrespect your viewers / followers who are respectful in their comments to you without the foul language? Like, I don't generally, like, I'm generally not disrespectful to people that are respectful to me, but if somebody is being a dumbass, I've got no problem calling them out for being a dumbass, like, regardless of the fact that they're viewing me or not. I don't find that it's very useful for me to pull punches. I don't find that there's anything gained from anybody experiencing a version of myself that's not real. If somebody doesn't like it, they're under no obligation to watch or support the channel. Excuse me. But yeah, if you believe something, of course you're going to fight for it. Yeah, true enough, true enough. Not everyone I know is left-wing, not everyone I know is right-wing, but everyone I know is poor and angry. Yeah, 100% Riley. There is a massive block of people that could be activated, a massive fucking amount of people that could be interested in politics and shown why it matters. They just need to be engaged in a way that doesn't instantly turn on their bullshit alarms. Termination of human life is murder. Murder bad. That is a universal moral. No, it's not. Termination of human life is murder. So what Israel is doing is murder then, Colby. Could be anybody. I want to hear you say it. Could be anybody. You go, girl. You go, boy. Thanks. Thanks for the $2. I appreciate it. I don't appreciate the girl in quotes or whatever, but I do appreciate the $2, so take what you can get, I guess. Okay, so now we've got some material to comment on. Honestly, you're fine. I could have lived ignoring you and pretending that you don't exist. But the moment politicians started putting drag shows and trans books in front of 9-year-olds, no. So the one who watched, I'm going to scroll all the way down now, and I expect an answer to this question. What exactly is wrong with a kid seeing a drag show or reading a book that features trans characters? What is inherently more sexual or more salacious about drag or trans people than anything that straight people are allowed to put in front of kids. Straight people are allowed to be like making out in front of their kids. That's considered totally appropriate. You know, if you're at home and shit, you can make out in front of your kids. It's not considered weird. Your kids will probably make fun of you for it, but like it's not considered like a no behavior. So straight people can like be fucking sucking tongue in front of their kids, but trans people can't even exist in front of children. This seems like a double standard. I want to hear you say it. You are fighting to make the killing babies morally acceptable. There's nothing to debate there. You're too far off base. Only God can reach you. Way to avoid the fucking question and dance around it like a fucking salsa dancer. Could be anybody. Who are you really? Because nobody makes a comment. Nobody makes a name like that without having like some kind of secretive intention, you know, having some kind of weird paranoid delusion about getting under my skin. So who are you really? You could be anybody, but you're not. Who are you really? A good person who is against the murder of children? I'm just going over options in my head. I could ban you because you refuse to take one step into reality. I could continue engaging you as if you're not somebody that's got some kind of obsessive hate boner with me. The options are in front of me. But I think I'm going to ask you another question. Will you admit that you're someone who knows me for some reason and has some kind of obsessive hate boner with me? Or will you explain why you're running around with an obvious alt on random live streams? Can we get into that? Can we get into the nature of you and your obsession with anonymity? Because that's interesting. You see, it's not very about why it is or is not murder or acceptable or whatever. Like, I think, you know what? People have had this conversation day in and day out. And there's not a thing I can learn about that conversation from you that I couldn't learn from someone smarter and more articulate. But there is something about you that I can learn from you and you alone, and that's the nature of who you are. So who are you? Could be anybody. Like I said, you could be anybody, but you're not. Reveal yourself. I'm not going to tell you, you freak. I'm the freak. You're stalking somebody you haven't known in years, and I'm the freak. Okay. Gotcha. Well, it's good seeing you again. Yeah, could have been. Could be anybody is now could have been. See, it never was. Wait, you know who this is? I have a reasonable suspicion, yeah. Especially like the way they're making their arguments, the way they're structuring them. I have a reasonable suspicion. I may be wrong, but I think it's a dude that I used to know back when I was living in Carrollton. Was a friend of my now ex best friend. And I had a bunch of arguments with him. Bunch of fucking arguments with him about all kinds of like Christianity adjacent topics and like him trying to justify like engaging in all the aesthetics of revolutionary leftism while actually being like deeply conservative and defending all of his religious conservatism and bullshit like that. He was just like a walking bag of contradictions, and I'm pretty reasonably sure that it's either said ex-best friend or that other friend that I was talking about. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be totally wrong. It could just be some random person that is just happening to use an alt that they made for some other purpose in my chat. But that name strikes me. My spidey sense tingles with this one. I'm not assuming his gender, I'm assuming his identity. Gender is part of that. But, like I said, I could be wrong. That's why I'm not saying any names. Not only that, but there's no point in involving them in my internet douchebaggery if they're not actually involving themselves in it. So, like, should I be wrong, it'd be fucked up. So, that's why you guys ain't getting no names. But something tells me that that person is not just a random hater. Are we talking about that person who played guitar with you on older videos? No. Well, listen. Things go by fast here. You're right. I did get off track. Okay. Let me look at channel activity and I can respond directly to what you said. Okay, so I responded to the comment. Honestly, you're fine. I could have lived ignoring you and pretending that you don't exist, but the moment politicians started putting drag shows and trans books in front of 9-year-olds, and then your response was, okay, but sometimes a cohesive society is detrimental to itself, like the UK, which is funny, because this comment is like a response to somebody else, which is something you just admonished me for on my own stream. I'm apt to ban you just for that kind of thing, but I'm going to give you a little bit more credit and assume that you're not being totally bad faith here. See, they can't even support you properly. I don't know who you're talking to or talking about or anything else right there. Dad walking his kids through a pride parade and seeing someone giving fellatio. Is this just some like apocryphal tale you've heard, or is there like video to this shit? Because if this shit happened, if that shit happened, if anything that even resembled that happened, I don't know what to call you, by the way. Your name is way too long. The one who watches from very far away. I'm just going to call you the one who watches. So, the one who watches, you are literally in here spreading a fucking tall tale about some dude getting fellatio in a pride parade and some little kid walking by seeing it. But you don't seem to be fucking engaging with the fucking, like, reality that we all occupy. Because that, like, couldn't happen and not become a major news story. There is no point in America's history where America has been so cool with gay people that gay people could just like fuck in public in any town in America and get away with it. There's approximately one pride parade in America that I know of where people will fuck in public and kids aren't allowed to go to it. Children are expressly forbidden from Folsom Street Pride, and there's a reason for that. People will fuck right in public at Folsom Street Pride. But Folsom Street Pride is not the only pride that goes on in San Francisco, nor is it the only pride going on in California. Hell, it's probably one of about 100 pride events happening within 20 miles of that location. No, I didn't make a comment that had a decent argument in it, but it must have been disappeared somewhere along the way. I've seen it happen to a dozen. Blame your moderators. No, that's the thing is, if I look at channel activity, it will show me messages that mods have deleted and everything. That's why I use it. Don't blame my mods for shit. My mods are good. My mods don't ban shit out of here that follows our 3 rules, and you've been following the 3 rules, so don't be accusing my mods of shit. That's like an unspoken 4th rule. Don't question the fucking mods. Because the rules are simple, readable, original, and interesting, and you've been all 3, all throughout the night. So I can guarantee you none of your fucking comments got snipped, and if they did, it was an accident. And I'm sure my mods right now are probably pawing through their phones trying to figure out, like, did I accidentally hide this motherfucker's comments at some point? And one of them will probably apologize if they accidentally hit something here in a few fucking seconds. But failing that, please don't accuse my mods of shit, because they do a really fucking tremendously good job keeping things cleaned up in here and ensuring that people like me and you can have a conversation. But YouTube will just nick comments. That's the thing. That's the point I was driving at more than anything, is that YouTube is to blame for most of that shit going away. You have to be very careful about the way you type something. If you're not sure that it'll get through, consider sending it in multiple messages. Consider using like alternative ways or euphemistic language or something like that. Like, you have to do some things to get through YouTube's filters, and there's some words that I have like that just get spammed all the time. I have like an ever-increasing list of spammed words that are blocked automatically, and if your sentence accidentally uses one of those, then sometimes you have to navigate around that as well. That's not a tall tale. You can look up the story. It was a big thing. If it was a big thing, well, one of my mods just said that they're going to look it up and they're going to provide me some verisimilitude on this. So if it was a big thing, then we can talk about it as an issue. We can figure out the details of this. We can have a genuine conversation about it. But one of the points you made was that that like politicians were putting drag shows and shit in front of 9-year-olds. That's not what happened. There were certain fucking schools in America's like biggest cities that already had a more progressive bent, and that like already featured like kid-friendly community entertainment as like a thing that would happen once a week or twice a month or whatever. And sometime in the mid-2000s, drag shows started to be included as part of the repertoire on that. And it really didn't start to become a problem until a few big cities that were just deep enough in the South to cause a ruckus started doing it. And then it spread like wildfire. Now suddenly, every fucking little school that has like a drag queen story hour or whatever is now under fucking scrutiny. And now every fucking library. And then it gets found out that there's a few fucking books out there that talk about the trans experience from the standpoint of a young person, genuinely and honestly. And we can't have that because we can't have any genuine representations of trans people being provided to young people, so that they have an example to know themselves better. Can't allow that. And so this narrative spread like wildfire around the country that the left and politicians and all the people you hate are indoctrinating your kids to be trans, because look at this, that, and the other thing. Look at this big drag show that happened at this library, and look how elaborate her dress is, and let's look at this like weird camera angle that makes it seem like they're like something more untoward was going on than what was ever going on. Let's not focus on the other angles that make clear what was actually happening. And this sort of attack against queer people, by the way, it's nothing new. It's literally nothing new. It's a tale as old as time, a song as old as rhyme. It's Beauty and the Beast all over again. The beauty, the endless amounts of queer people that have had to suffer the slings and arrows of people's bigotry, and the beast in this case, the constant fucking march of bigotry and transphobia justified with think about the children. Gay people have been getting accused of being pedophilic or being a corrupting influence since literally like the fucking 60s/70s. This is literally one of the fucking first charges that was laid against the homosexual community that later evolved to become the overall queer community. It's literally one of the fucking first things that was levied against us, despite the fact that it was untrue then and remains untrue now, and has remained just as untrue throughout the ages. Queer people are way more likely to be victims of assault than to ever perpetrate it, but don't tell your president that, because he'll accuse you of being fake news. Don't tell any Republican politician that, because they'll accuse you of just repeating the leftist Marxist fucking Democratic agenda, even though despite the fact that two of those things don't even align and in fact directly contradict one another. It shouldn't happen. Naked people shouldn't be on the street. That is just despicable. Why? Who gave you the ability to make the morally arbitrating decision on that? You realize Germany has whole ass nude beaches where people just go completely fucking buck ass naked. Everybody from the littlest baby to the oldest man is walking around out there, fucking cock and balls fully out, tits fully fucking blowing in the breeze. You realize Germany has that in spades? You realize there are whole fucking parks where nudism is allowed in Germany and shit. Like it's fucking all over Europe. Literally, not just Germany. There are places all over Europe and frankly all over America. I'm a member of the Rainbow Family of Living Light. I consider myself a member. I guess really you can't be a member of a non-coherent organization, But I've been to Rainbow enough times to where now I get it, and I know people there, and I feel comfortable there, more comfortable there than I feel out here, honestly, most of the time. And it's an organization that is completely fine with nudity. You have to cover up when the cops come around because public nudity isn't allowed in most federal parks in America and shit. As far as I know, I don't think it's actually officially allowed in any of them. But I've been ran around fully nude at Rainbow. It's really fun actually to go around without any clothes on when you're out in the woods, and it's nice and cool. You literally you've never felt more temperature regulated than you do with just a little something around your waist to make sure that when you sit, you've got something comfortable to sit on that's not just your bare ass against the tree. That is a fucking incredibly, exceedingly comfortable position to exist within. And that alone makes me think that nudism is probably something that people should have more opportunities to engage in, whatever. People make all of these moralistic arguments about it, but the fucking facts of it are in, there's no fucking societal danger posed by nudist spaces or by nudist movements. You can fucking handle a day of nudity, I promise. I swear to God. Especially non-sexualized nudity. Once again, if you're talking about sexualized nudity, it should be exposed to that ever, obviously. And they're fucking not. 9 times out of 10. And 99 times out of 100. Any example you can give to the contrary is an example of things getting fucked up, and everybody agrees that they got fucked up, so it's just what's the point you're making? Because in the places where this is just an accepted behavior, and the places where it is way more sexual, they aren't letting kids back there. They're not letting kids into those fucking pride events. Parents are actively discouraged from bringing their children. Hell, there are prides that aren't even really that sexual that discourage children from being brought to pride, because ultimately pride is a protest. It's not meant to be some little carnival kiddie fair where everybody can go and get a cotton candy and get a fucking fancy little t-shirt, right? It's not meant for you to go up and buy a special little fucking T-Mobile phone case with a LGBT fucking symbol on the back of it or whatever. That's not what pride is for. Pride is to protest for the rights of queer people to exist without being killed in the street or fucking crucified on a fence post just because we choose to be openly queer. So it's not exactly a place for kids to begin with. Oh, hold on, I need a cigarette. Cigarette. No, it's just public government schools are better at hiding it with their resource officers. Wait, what are you talking about now? What are you fucking going on about now? I'm so fucking confused. Nude beaches, a designated spot where this is supposed to happen, is much different than driving down public streets with your ass hanging out. Oh, okay. Interesting. With your ass hanging out. That's interesting, see? Because you can't just drive down the street any random day and see people walking around with their ass hanging out. Unless you're in particular kinds of communities. There is kind of a fashion movement against a very particular culture in America. Amongst this particular culture in America, there's kind of a trend. And it does involve your ass hanging out sometimes, depending on how well you're doing it and what the system you've got going on is, But it's just interesting, though, because it's not queer people. Have you perhaps conflated some of your bigotries in multiple directions, my friend? And I know that sounds horribly accusatory. I don't mean it to. But I prefer to be honest with people, and I'm trying to give you, like, my honest opinions and my honest takes. So if I come off as abrasive, I apologize. But I feel like you've maybe got some issues to sort out in regards to your view of the human form, because I don't see anything inherently sexual about a human body. Number one, I think honestly, I think society would be better if people could walk around with less clothes on if they wanted to, and there wasn't some kind of like implied danger from some kind of sex crazed lunatic, and if there wasn't some kind of like weird stigma against it that says that, oh, horrible things are going to happen if you did this thing that human beings did for the vast majority of our existence. I'm not saying everybody should go around nude all the time. It's just like an impractical thing to do. I mean, certain weather requires fucking heavy layers of clothing. I'm advocating for the fact that really what I'm advocating for is like personal autonomy and societies that work better to address the weird fucking hang-ups that we all have, and that works towards social progress that makes it easier for people to do whatever weird shit that they want to do as long as it's not hurting anybody else. But the main reason I have to take this particular angle is because people use the example of nudity at Pride as an example of Pride being overly sexualized, or there being some kind of like some kind of degenerate element of it. By the way, degenerate is a Nazi word. I don't know if you know that, but yeah, it's better to drum it out of your lexicon if you can. It's a word that was invented by the Nazis to describe queer shit. So yeah, try not to like use it in the future now that you know it's a Nazi word. So many people throw that label around. Every time you do, though, I'll just tell you, every time a person uses degenerate in other, like, unless you're clearly joking and being, like, edgy in that way, if you're actually using degenerate as a serious way to describe something and the way you feel about something, I peg you as a Nazi instantly. I might continue to talk to you. I might not mention the fact that I now know you're a Nazi, but I know. I'll be goddamned if I don't know. I know where that word comes from. I know who used it. I know who they used it against. Don't fuck with me. You may scroll up to look, but I looked into that BJ at Pride story. It's just a rumor supported only by no-name conservative sites. Okay, let me look. Let me see here. Channel activity. Okay. Only ultra-conservative no-name sites are reporting anything about a public BJ at Pride, and it boils down to rumors. Summer last year. It's actually legal in most places to be topless or pantless in public as long as you aren't masturbating or erect. Yeah, that's another thing that like it's interesting, right? Nudism is kind of like implicitly prohibited by certain laws in a lot of municipalities, but like on a like fundamental level, usually people that are just like nudists as a form of protest, they usually win. So it's like whenever like there are ways you can be a nudist, but that like you have to be an activist nudist if you want to be a nudist in America. Because if you're just a regular person that wants to walk down the street naked, you're going to be accosted by the cops, and they're going to find some reason to take your ass in. If you start to have like if you're a person with a dick and you start to have a little chubber because the fucking wind hits you the right way or whatever, and it's like stiffening things up because it's just like they're going to use that as an excuse or whatever, you know. Your nipples get hard because the fucking wind shifts, and then they're like, oh shit, you're aroused, you fucking getting off on this, come on you freak, and now you've got a fucking lifelong record. Yeah, so like unless you're going to be an activist about it and like paint your body to say like like in association with the nudists of America or whatever, you know, you can't really get away with it in America. And that's what I mean when I say that it's functionally not very legal in a lot of places in America to do it like in general, but there are places in America that explicitly allow it. But yeah, so what it sounds to me like is that some kind of no-name, no-account conservative fucking mouthpiece started some bullshit rumor about a blowjob happening at Pride in front of God and everybody. And yet, somehow, this didn't get called into police by the complainant parents. So whatever parents originated this story, right, apparently didn't call police. So first hole in the Swiss cheese method, right? So we've got the first hole in the block of Swiss cheese right now. Second hole, nobody at the rest of the Pride parade called the cops either. They just watched a fucking blowjob go down, looked around at all the apparently like giant range of ages going on over there, and we're like, yeah, this is fine. So the complicity of a bunch of fucking people to something that is just like an openly like horrible public crime that we know for a fact people would normally report. Okay. Second set of holes in the Swiss cheese model. Third set of holes. Nobody in the fucking like police are usually a part of, well, I mean not usually, but in certain cities, police will actually be a part of the Pride you know, procession. They'll be like leading the parade or at the back of the parade or in the middle of it or something like that, you know, throwing candy with everybody else or whatever. Um, so the cops passed this by and didn't say anything or see anything. So an entire parade, an entire Pride event happened, and a blowjob transpired in the middle of it all, and yet nobody caught any footage of it. Nobody reported to the police, including the parents who apparently levied complaint about it. So what do we have here? Like, what do we ultimately have here? We have the rumor mill and a bunch of people that claim some shit happened, but we don't have any fucking local news stories. Like, I guess I could ask Riley, like, if can you fucking like look up like the specific town and everything, like try to like look it up as if you're a local trying to get news about it, because maybe like if you can find a police report about it or something, if you can find like an actual local news source that's reporting on the events and has like witness statements or something like that, that's what I'll accept as proof that that actually happened. But this is why I have my mods look into shit. This is why I look into shit before I just accept someone's fucking claim about this, that, or the other thing. Because people don't even mean to, but they'll misinform. I'm not saying that person I was arguing with earlier, who I think I've scared off at this point with my mistreatment of them, but whatever, they were being dumb and obstinate. So, you know, at a certain point, the brick wall meets the immovable object, and one of them has to make way. I get that, right? But, fuck, what was I saying? Fuck. I hate it when I do that. I hate it when I lose, like, total track of what I was saying and where I was going. Oh, yeah, we were talking about that blowjob at the Pride Parade. Yeah, so, like, you can't, and I was talking about how you can't necessarily, and I don't know if I scared that person off or not, but you can't necessarily win, right, with, or I'm sorry, you can't necessarily just take somebody's genuinely held beliefs and take them at their word when it comes to matters of fact. If somebody is saying that they believe something, or that they believe something on the basis of some real life thing happening, then you need to look into the fucking details of that real life thing in order to be able to respond to it accurately. I mean, there's some things you can just dismiss as like, well, that's anecdotal, and that one I could have dismissed as just anecdotal. Honestly, I could have just said, and I think I did say something like, you know, the vast majority of the time when something fucked up does happen at a Pride, the organizers apologize for it, the security forces that they paid apologize for it, you know, individual organizing parties within it make apologies for it. They try to make things better, right? They like Pride is pretty fucking good about accountability as a set of organizations, and as a movement, Pride is pretty good about accountability. And the idea that something like this would happen and like absolutely no news sources would cover it, it's just absurd to me. And so it's one of those things where I made the point that, yeah, like whenever something bad does happen at Pride, Pride takes care of it, but it doesn't really matter. Really, you could argue that it doesn't matter. That argument doesn't even matter because the fact that I'm arguing against is an incorrect fact. It's not real. It's not true. The way it's presented is not the way it actually is. The way it's presented is if it's like this confirmed fucking thing that everybody knows. Everybody knows. Everybody's familiar. People are lying. The fake news is lying, but everyone knows. And then you look into it, and it's rumors and hearsay, and it's all conservative tabloid sites. All conservative tabloid sites. There's no video. There's no audio. There's no pictures. There's no nothing. No verisimilitude at all. And we're just supposed to accept that as legitimate? Do you think that children under the age of 16 should be allowed to medically transition? When you say medically transition, do you mean like receive sex assignment surgery? No, and neither do the Dutch. I prefer the Dutch approach. When it comes to matters of trans people that are under the age of 18, I like the Dutch approach. I like the idea of allowing kids to get on puberty blockers if they genuinely think that they're trans. Like, they're going to go through some therapy while they're doing that. They'll go through years of therapy in the lead up to whatever decision they decide to make. Okay, I want to go through the puberty that I was assigned at birth, right? The puberty that matches my gender assigned at birth. Okay, fine. So they get off the puberty blockers, maybe receive some jumpstart hormones to get things to start up. But other than that, they're fine. The vast majority of cases, they're perfectly fine. And if someone does, in fact, want to go through a transition, which is the vast majority of cases, actually, the vast majority of people that think they're trans younger in life end up being trans throughout the rest of their life. Most people don't end up detransitioning. And at that point, around 16 is when a person would be allowed to start their regular hormone regimen that they'll be doing for the rest of their life, their hormone replacement therapy. That's when they would be starting to go through the therapy and rest process for a possible sex reassignment surgery, if that's what they're looking for as part of their care program. But that would probably happen a couple of years out. You probably wouldn't get something like that till you're 18. This is all well-established science. The outcomes of it are proven, and it's called the Dutch approach. You can look into it. Or Canada. I think I like Canada more in theory, but I think when it comes to just practicality, I've eaten way more breakfast than I've ever eaten Canada, and I've seen way less Canada than I've ever seen breakfast. I've enjoyed more breakfast than I've ever enjoyed Canada, because I've never been to Canada, but I do like Canadians. I do find a lot of their musicians pretty talented. It's a fucking hard thing. It's a hard thing. Vulgar. Oh boy. Oh boy. It includes that word. Which word? I'm going to scroll up again. It's nearly impossible to prove a negative that something did not happen. Been a defense and civil rights attorney for quite a few years. It's 1,000 times easier to prove that an act did happen. Oh yeah, you're 100% right, B. I mean, that's like a time-honored, I don't know how you'd put it. That's like a well-known element of rhetoric, right? Is that it is way easier to prove that, it's way easier to prove a premise than to disprove a premise, basically, is what we're saying. It's way easier to prove something than it is to disprove something, just full stop, point blank, period. Really, if I'm trying to look at it from, the standpoint of an attorney, I would imagine that, really the real art of it, from what I can tell, I'm not, a super fucking huge true crime buff, but my mom is really into it, so I grew up watching a lot of it, and I still kind of check it out from time to time, and I do like watching depositions and shit. And so, from what I can tell, the real art to courtroom procedure for a defense attorney is not trying to prove that they didn't do it, but rather sow a bunch of doubt about whether or not they did it. You're not looking to prove, from what I can tell, you guys aren't looking to prove to the jury that they could not have done it, unless that's just like super easy to do. It's really all about sowing the seeds of possibility that it didn't happen, which are two different things. Getting someone to doubt is a lot easier than getting someone to deny. If I'm not mistaken, just under 1% of those who transition regret their decision 5 years out. Yeah, no, it's really fucking crazy how low the statistic is. The vast majority of people who come out as trans are happy about that decision, and a lot of people who detransition cite a lack of support, sadly. Why not just let them socially transition and wait till they're 16? Because hormone blockers will stop puberty, but when they go off of them, puberty doesn't resume. Doesn't it, though? Isn't that the whole point of puberty blockers? Is that puberty does resume? And even if it doesn't resume on its own, like, wouldn't they just take, like, a hormone regimen matching their gender assigned at birth? And, like, eventually they would start producing it again, wouldn't they? Like, surely I don't know. Maybe I need to read more about the procedure, but like the main thing that impressed me was the like really fucking high rates of positive outcomes with this approach in the Netherlands, right? Like the vast majority of people treated under this particular care plan end up happy with their decision, happy with their transition, happier as a rule than trans people of any other country, which tells me that it must be a pretty fucking successful program. But I'm willing to admit there might be some criticisms of it. It's just not like something I know every single intimate detail about when it comes to the like medical procedure of it. I know enough to get myself in trouble, in other words. Do you know most gender-affirming care for children has been stopped in most European countries because of adverse side effects? I've heard that a lot of that's been rolled back in places like Britain. I haven't heard about it being rolled back in any other countries, but maybe it has been. I would have to look into it more to know enough to commentate on it, honestly. I'll be honest with you guys, as an American, I don't follow European politics that heavily. I'm more than fine to steal one of you guys' good ideas if I can. You know, if I can, I'm like Michael Moore, I'm more than happy to invade you guys' countries and steal your good ideas and bring them back here and implement them here in America and act like they were our ideas. I'm more than happy to do that. But as far as like keeping up with the intricacies of all you guys' different politics, dude, like to me, that's like asking one of you guys to know intimately about all of the different states and their individual politics, which you guys would find absurd. But for some reason, Germany thinks it's completely fucking reasonable to expect an American to know the intricate details of German politics, or to at least know some basics about it. Motherfucker, I just found out last week that their fucking prime minister ain't a girl anymore. I thought they still had a chick up there. Yeah, you know, Angela Winkle or Wanker or whatever her name was. I thought her ass was still up there. I didn't find out that Angela Wanker wasn't the fucking prime minister of Germany till like a week and a half ago or something like that, you know? I'm an American. Come on now. Like I said, it would be like expecting one of you guys to know about the intricate details of Texas politics. I don't even know the intricate details of Texas politics. I know their governor is a cripple named Greg Abbott. I know that they almost froze to death in like 2021 or some shit like that because they didn't properly winterize their grid. I know it's an immense fucking state to drive through. That's about what I know about Texas that has anything to do with anything political. And honestly, the last one's a stretch. Everything else I know about Texas has to do with how good the brisket is, or how good the barbecue is, or how big the fucking thing is, or whatever, right? It's got nothing to do with the state politics of Texas. So if I don't even know what's going on over there, like, let's take a more obscure state. Is there a single person in chat who can tell me fucking thing one about Kentucky? And I'm from the deep south. I'm asking, is there a single motherfucker in here that could come up with any fucking piece of information about the state of Kentucky that is modern? Modern, up-to-date information. Give me something. I'm going to look at the chat in 10 seconds. I want to see, like, the governor of Kentucky is this dude. Or the fucking, you know, this horrible politician hails from Kentucky. I'm not going to see it. You know why? Because even Americans don't give a fuck about Kentucky. So why do you guys expect me to care about Belgium and Spain and Luxembourg and shit, you know? A Facebook user posts about someone seeing an oral sex act at a pride parade. If there's no tangible evidence, photos, video, then it should be considered false. No way to prove it didn't happen. Yeah, there's no way to prove that it didn't happen, exactly. You have no hope of actually equivocally proving that it didn't happen, or at least very little hope. Like, things have to work out very fucking explicitly, you know, and very specifically, too, for you to have the ability to prove outright that something could not have happened. Like, you basically have to have, like, you basically have to have, like, the situation in To Kill a Mockingbird, where Atticus Finch basically establishes that what was her name, Mayella, that Mayella had to have been choked and beaten by somebody with use of both arms, right? He establishes this, he reinforces it a shit ton, and then in this really epic moment, he has Tom come up and swear on the Bible. And he really has him do it to demonstrate to the court that he only has use of one arm. After he does the thing, you know, after he's sworn in as a witness, he's given the question by Atticus, what happened to your arm? And he goes through this line of questioning, but it's like this epic moment, right, where you basically know as soon as you read that fucking line, as soon as you read that paragraph, or as soon as you see that scene in the movie, you know, ultimately, you know that Tom couldn't have done it. Tom couldn't have assaulted Mayella. There's no way. There's like physically no way it could have happened. It's a physically impossible situation. Literally could not have happened the way it's being said to have happened. But you have to end up with a situation like that, otherwise you're just hopelessly lost. If you're trying to like actually disprove something. Which, you know, if I'm picking up what you're putting down, that's what I've always perceived about defense attorneys, is that the strategy never seems to be even related to actually proving it unequivocally that someone didn't do something, unless they've got some kind of hardcore evidence to that effect. It's always about sowing the seeds of doubt. It's always about making people really think about how this could be forged and this could be made up and this could be inspired by this thing. And I think there's a cool kind of magic to it, watching defense attorneys work, you know, figuring out defenses for people that are as guilty as sin. The idea of it, to me, just tickles me. There's something about it that